Welcome to the Sedona Unitarian Universalist Fellowship, virtually. I'm the Reverend Glenn Farley. Our usual practice is to gather each Sunday morning, gather in peace and fellowship. Given that we're in the midst of a global pandemic, the best way we can love and serve each other, our neighbors and ourselves, is to physically distance. The situation we've found ourselves in these last few weeks has led to many witty retorts. I came across an internet meme this past week that stated, "My mom always told me I wouldn't amount to anything lying on the sofa, and yet here I am, saving the world." I thought that was cute. It gave me a chuckle. The reality is our current situation is a great loss. We lost our core religious practice rather suddenly 4 weeks ago to gather together each Sunday morning. I miss you. I miss our time together. I miss the smiles and the hugs that greet your neighbor and during coffee hour. I will begin our virtual Easter service by reading a poem by the Unitarian poet E.E. Cummings, and I recite it during every Easter service at the Sedona Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. I thank you, God, for most this amazing day, for the leaping greenly spirit of trees and a blue dream of sky, and for everything which is natural, which is infinite, which is yes. I who have died am alive again today, and this is the sun's birthday. This is the birthday of life and love and wings, and of the gay, great happening, illimitably earth. How should tasting, touching, hearing, seeing, breathing any, lifted from the no of all nothing, human merely being, doubt unimaginable you? Now the ears of my ears awake, and now the eyes of my eyes are opened. With the kindling of this flame, we reaffirm our commitment to accept life's gifts with grace and gratitude, and to use them to bless the world in the spirit of love. I really enjoy bright pastel colors. I enjoy wearing them as clothing, and the Easter season obviously is good for that. If anyone looks at you funny for wearing bright pink, you can just respond with, "Hey, it's Easter," and pretend I'm the Easter Bunny. The Reverend Dr. Serene Jones is a pastor, theologian, professor, and president of Union Theological Seminary in New York City. She was interviewed by Nicholas Kristof last year in the New York Times. The interview was right around Easter 2019, so that came up in their conversation. They spoke of Easter, and Reverend Dr. Jones focused on the metaphorical and symbolic meanings of Easter. She said in the interview, "The message of Easter is that love is stronger than life or death. That empty tomb symbolizes that the ultimate love in our lives cannot be crucified and killed. What happens on Easter is the triumph of love in the midst of suffering." We as a community, as a country, throughout the world are in the midst of suffering. probably about 5 years ago when I was in Sedona and started getting into aerial silks here in Sedona. I was curious as to who first came up with this idea of hanging things from the ceiling and climbing up them and dancing in the air. So, years ago I purchased a book on the topic. It was written by a young woman who went around to all the early pioneers of aerial dance and interviewed them. Roughly each chapter of the book was an interview with a different aerial dance pioneer. Nearly all of them were women. One of the early chapters was entitled Terry Sengraf, and the subtitle of that chapter was Matriarch of Aerial Dance. Terry Sengraf developed her vision of aerial dance, which she called motility, with low-hanging trapeze. She developed it in the 1970s in the San Francisco Bay Area. And over her career, she created and performed and choreographed over 300 different shows or dances over her lifetime. She had a diverse training background. She was trained in classical dance, both ballet and modern, as well as gymnastics and the circus arts. In Colorado, she trained in flying trapeze when she was young, but it wasn't for her. It was so high up, 40 feet in the air. She wanted to be in the air, but she wanted to dance in the air, not necessarily do circus-style tricks. That was her artistic vision. She was teaching dance and gymnastics at Arizona State University in 1969-1970. She continued to have this vision of dancing in the air that wasn't being fulfilled by her ground dancing or the circus arts of that time. She shared her vision and her frustration with an art professor at ASU, John Waddell. And it is written in the book, Professor John Waddell was adamant in his support for her and her artistic vision. You've got to do it. You must follow it, he would say to her. Full encouragement for her artistic vision in an artistic performance genre that didn't exist. Terry Sengraf does end up following her artistic vision. The very next year, 1971, she moved to the San Francisco Bay Area and opens her own studio to train students, to create performances, and create over 300 aerial dances over the ensuing decades. Terry Sengraf had many influences in her work. But was that encouragement from John Waddell important to her? Well, it was important enough for her to bring it up in an interview 35 years after the fact. In 1970, aerial dance was an idea in her mind. It wasn't something in reality. In the 1990s, when Cirque du Soleil became a household name, and then in the 2000s, when Hollywood and pop stars began performing aerial acts at award shows and rock concerts, the aerial arts became very real and very widespread. Today, in big cities and small towns across the country, young girls as well as adults engage in aerial arts. It is a great confidence booster. It helps build self-esteem for young people. I've seen it with my own eyes. Imagine how strong your upper body would get if you essentially climb up and down a rope over and over again for an hour twice a week. Very strong. Terry Sengraf, the matriarch of aerial dance, died last year in August of 2019 at age 85. John Waddell beloved member of this congregation, died last November 2019, the day before Thanksgiving, age 98. Terry and John died. They died as we all will die one day. They died and their love lives on. The love lives on through their encouragement of a young person. Their love lives on through their artistic expression. And love lives on through their family and friends whose hearts they've touched. Love is stronger than death. Love wins. In the order of service today, I included some quotes from John Waddell on his humanistic, artistic philosophy, and you can see from his view how he was there for Terry Sengrass when she was younger, and how it was important to support her in her artistic vision. I also included in the order service and right here a photograph of myself taken years ago at the Waddell Ranch, and I was touring the grounds admiring John's bronze sculptures, and with this one I attempted to get into a similar posture as the bronze figure when the photograph was taken. And I remember that day, the Arizona sun was so bright and so strong that my eyes were tightly shut to keep me from being blinded. And it seemed an appropriate photograph to share for Easter as I reflect on John Waddell's love living on and how winter is turning into spring. Final note this morning: please remember to return your pledge forms to our SUUF treasurer, Tracy Young. The pledge drive deadline is next Sunday. Usually, we sing fun songs and have friendly reminders each Sunday during the pledge drive, but we're not meeting together because we're not in usual times. Attached to the email announcing this service, there's an MP3 file of our musician Susanna Martin singing "Wouldn't It Be Loverly?" And so I encourage you to listen to that. She's singing it with quite an accent, so be sure to check it out. And I came across a special a benediction for extinguishing the chalice by the UU minister Amy Zucker Morgenstern. It's entitled "We Are One," and I'm going to read it, and then I will blow out the chalice. We are one. Never has it been more true than now. We extinguish this flame, but the sparks within us remain alight. From each of us in our supposed solitude, the signals buzz and hum, sparkling through space one to another, connecting us invisibly but palpably. We are one, and from every window our light shines. May you go in peace.